KOMO News starts right now. A Seattle neighborhood rocked awake by an ear-splitting sound.
We could smell the gas before and we could hear it hissing, but at that moment I was thrown on the ground.
Our own crew knocked over feet away when a building in Greenwood blew up, leveled by a natural gas explosion.
The whole building just turned into matchsticks, and we're very lucky to have our lives.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. 11 a.m. I'm Brad Good. Live look now at the scene of destruction from Air 4 as we continue our breaking news coverage here of what happened very early this morning at 85th Street and Greenwood Avenue in North Seattle. It looks like a war zone as you look down from Air 4. The damage and debris can be seen for blocks. Investigators are in there trying to figure out exactly what happened, if in fact this was a natural gas explosion, as has been reported, as well as trying to get through there and try to clean up and get businesses open. 9 firefighters injured in that blast as they investigated that gas leak early this morning. They've all been released from the hospital. Many have cuts from flying glass. Right now, crews still working on the safety of everybody in that North Seattle neighborhood, and we have Team 4 coverage for you, touching on every angle of that story. Let's begin with KOMO's Denise Whitaker with the latest on what exactly happened there early this morning. Denise?
Boy, you just heard our photographer John Prentice say we're lucky to have our lives. So true. When you look at all of this debris, the bricks, the wood, the nails, the pieces, the fixtures of the parts of the 3 businesses that just launched into the air early this morning.
I mean, we were 10 feet away from the building. At that moment, the building exploded next to me. I saw firefighters in the alley just before that.
KOMO News photographer John Prentice was on scene shooting video of firefighters responding to a natural gas leak when he became part of the story. The call for that leak came in at 1:04 a.m. An explosion rocked Greenwood Avenue North 39 minutes later.
We could hear it hissing, but at that moment I was thrown on the ground and there was broken glass, and the cameraman who was next to me was saying, "Run! Run as fast as you can!"
John ran. A total of 9 firefighters, though, got caught up in the blast, unbelievably, all with minor injuries. Amazing when you see 3 businesses leveled: the Neptune Cafe, Mr. Euros, and Greenwood Quick Stop Grocery, which had ice cream freezers and other items blown across the street, debris up in the trees as if shot out of a cannon.
We couldn't determine exactly where the gas leak was coming from. We called for additional help.
That help came from Puget Sound Energy to shut off all gas. But to reach some of those gas pipes, they had to cut through the street 4 to 5 feet down.
We shut down those valves, we shut down the gas, then we'll be bringing in our leak survey crews.
The bulb at the top of the pole each of those PSC crew members carries is GPS. Andy Wappler tells me that immediately marks any location where a leak is detected. These crews are now checking the entire neighborhood. And now I just talked with Andy Wappler. He says so far those survey crews have not found any additional leaks. Fire and utility crews are going to stay out here working. They'll be out here all day right now. The next step in the process is for state investigators to come out here on scene, inspect the pipeline, and investigate the exact cause of this explosion. Of course, they cannot do that until the fire department has completely secured the scene. Brad?
Still a busy, active scene, Denise. Thanks. All right, did you hear that and see that? You've heard witnesses talk about the sound of the blast. Well, here's surveillance video taken inside the Olive and Garden Mediterranean Grill on Greenwood Avenue as it happened early this morning. You can see that bright light at the second the explosion happened, and right after, you can notice just debris falling from the ceiling right in front of that camera there. The power of that blast literally shaking the buildings around it. KOMO's Cale Thompson has been talking with business owners all morning long right there near the blast site. Cale, I understand, it's pretty understandable most businesses won't be reopening today.
Yeah, and some of them aren't even sure if they'll ever be able to reopen. Brad, that is the harsh reality of what we are dealing with this morning. Take a look here down the street again as crews sift through all the rubble there. For the owners on the street, a small business is not just a livelihood. For them, it is their life. Amid all the destruction, Davey Oil still hasn't seen the inside of his bike shop.
Among my first thoughts were, there goes our hopes and dreams.
This is what's left of his G&O family cyclery, right next door to the site of Wednesday morning's massive explosion in Greenwood.
Mr. Euro's, the Quick Stop, and Neptune Coffee are all destroyed, totaled. I mean, they're gone. It's like they were just wiped out by a bomb.
Just a block away at Chocolati Cafe, plywood is replacing glass.
Obviously, the gas line exploded, blew out all of the windows, cracked these guys over here. You can see them.
There's a true sense of community here. We watched as Darla took a break from cleaning up to make a fresh pot of coffee for exhausted firefighters. Others first, she says.
For us, fortunately, it's just a big mess. For the poor people down the street, I mean, it's huge. Their building's gone.
Councilman Mike O'Brien got a tour of the devastation. He says the city is prepared to help these businesses as they try to get back on their feet. But the reality is, a handful may not.
There's a couple businesses that are simply gone. And so we'll have to, I think the building owners on site, I haven't chatted with them. You know, that's going to be, those businesses are going to either need to find new homes or maybe they go away. But we'll have to work with them, too, to see what happens.
It's tough for those like Oil to hear, because on this street, it's not just about business. It's about community.
I love those businesses, the people who work in them, and what they offer to our community, and I'll miss them forever. I hope that they can recover. I hope they can come back. I hope that whatever it is that happens in that space after the fact, as you know, moving forward, is something that helps grow our neighborhood and helps keep knitting people closer together.
If there is a silver lining to any of this, business owners say that the blast happening at 1:30 in the morning probably saved lives. Just imagine had this happened at 1:30 in the afternoon when this street would have been absolutely packed and people would have been inside those businesses. We're live here in Greenwood this morning. I'm Kel Thompson, KOMO News.
Be a completely different story if that were the case. Time definitely helping out here. 9 firefighters were treated at Harborview Medical Center after that explosion, including a battalion chief. All of them have since been released. Good news there. Our team coverage continues with Kristen Drew there. Kristen, what a relief. All those brave first responders are doing well considering all the damage.
Brad, it really is remarkable that no one was seriously hurt today in that explosion. So many people were coming and going from Harborview this morning to check on the firefighters, including the chief.
Our prayers were answered this morning, and we feel very blessed that our prayers were answered there.
Blessed, relieved, and lucky. 3 words the Seattle fire chief is hearing a lot this morning after 9 firefighters were injured in the blast.
I think it was hard for most to put it into words. It was just such a dynamic event that happened so fast. They feel lucky to be here to have that conversation this morning because this could have gone very differently.
The firefighters were setting up a secure perimeter near 85th and Greenwood when the explosion happened. 8 firefighters and a battalion chief were taken to Harborview and treated for cuts and abrasions. Some didn't even have injuries, but were evaluated as a precaution because of the force of the blast. Some even knocked to the ground.
Physically shaken, bruised, as you would be when a building explodes around you and debris is falling and the concussion from that. Emotionally, this is going to take a little bit to get through. This isn't something that that happens every day.
And just a little while ago, I spoke with one of the firefighters who was injured in the explosion. He suffered a bruise under his eye, some scratches on his face. His hair was even singed. He told me his first reaction was the safety of his crew, but he seems to be in good spirits. He was even cracking some jokes out here. For now, we are live in Harborview. I'm Kristen Drew, KOMO News.
Glad to hear you can laugh and joke about it now. They are truly brave men and women. The Greenwood community wasting no time showing their support for those affected by the blast. KOMO's Lee Stoll live with how a local school stopped class to teach kids an important lesson indeed, Lee.
Yeah, really for everyone who is here. You heard Kale talk about business owners who have lost everything, but take a look at the shops behind us. They are surrounded by apartment buildings and homes. This multi-unit building right behind Chocolati has all of the windows blown out along one wall. Now you can imagine the jolt people felt as they slept just a few feet from this explosion. We want to give you a great shot from Air 4 taken just after the bell rang at Greenwood Elementary, less than a half a mile away from here. All of the kids spilled out into the yard and formed an enormous heart. We spoke to the teacher who came up with the idea. She says a friend texted her about the blast. She got to work and co-workers immediately thought this would be an important teaching moment for kids whose families shop at these damaged stores and even the coffee shops.
We really love the businesses here and our first responders, and we want to teach the kids about showing community support in a time like this. And we also all feel like you need to do something when you feel something for your community that might be in shock right now or people in pain.
Now, we've seen a lot of people all morning long coming out with strollers, walking their dogs. They're on their bikes as if their morning routine always takes them through here, and today would be no different. I also just saw a GoFundMe page online and was watching it all morning long. It's been up for only about 3 hours or so. It's been set up for the people who have lost their jobs maybe for days, even weeks in this area. And so far, in just that short amount of time, more than 150 people have already pledged more than $6,000. In Greenwood, I'm Lee Stoll, KOMO News.
I'm not surprised. Doesn't take long for that neighborhood to pull together, Lee. Thanks.
Dispatch, mayday, mayday, mayday.
A massive explosion levels 3 businesses, knocks firefighters and a KOMO photographer to the ground.
And the cameraman who was next to me was saying, run! Run as fast as you can!
And rocks an entire neighborhood.
They literally shook us out of bed.
This is insane. Air 4 is live over the blast zone right now, and just minutes ago, investigators confirmed this explosion was accidental, caused by a natural gas leak. Crews were responding to reports of that leak early this morning when the explosion happened. 9 firefighters were injured. All were treated and released. And in addition to the 3 businesses destroyed, more than 30 others suffered damage to some extent. Good evening. I'm Molly Shen in the KOMO studio.
And I'm Eric Johnson, live in the Greenwood neighborhood that was devastated by the impact of that explosion early this morning. When you see this thing up close, and I'm going to have you pan over here and take a look at what's behind me. When you look at it closely for the first time, 2 things strike you right off the bat. Number one, the sheer massive destructive force of a natural gas explosion. There were 3 businesses where what you're looking at used to be. 3 businesses, the Greenwood Quick Stop, the Neptune Coffee Shop, Mr. Euro's Sandwich Shop, and they no longer exist. They have been wiped from the face of this neighborhood. The force is truly something to behold. The other thing I think that you notice here that comes to mind immediately is just how lucky we are and that this neighborhood is, because this happened at 1:42 in the morning. Had it happened at 1:42 in the afternoon, the human toll would have been massive. Those businesses would have been full of people, workers, customers. People would have been walking down this very busy boulevard. Cars would have been driving through. We could have had a much, much more devastating story to tell you about. Many angles to this story to tell you about. We're going to cover all of them for you. We have Team 4 coverage on the explosion, the businesses that have been destroyed and impacted and reduced to rubble, the injured firefighters, and of course the impact of this entire neighborhood. Joining me right now is Michelle Esteban. And Michelle, you've been here all day long. You've been seeing what's been going on here. You have new information for us, is that right?
Absolutely. Just talked to the Seattle Fire Department, and we now know that the gas leak, the source of that, came from outside the building. We have been reporting since our 4 o'clock hour that the cause is indeed accidental, but it has been nearly a 16-hour operation, and before we get to the bottom of this, the state, the UTC, maybe even the NTSB is going to have to come in and help us investigate the cause.
Dispatch, mayday, mayday, mayday. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Battalion 6, I need a full response to 213 North 85th Street. I have firefighters missing.
That was just seconds after the blast came without warning, so fierce that not 1 but 3 businesses are now obliterated. 7 long minutes later, all 9 Seattle firefighters were accounted for. Only minor injuries, but some clearly rattled after coming so close to so much destruction.
And then he went out and he called me moments later to say, the Quick Mark, Mr. Euros, and Neptune Coffee are gone.
Sammy Rashid owns Mr. Heroes. He raced to the scene in his pajamas to find his 15-year business gone.
Wow, just shocked. Hasn't sunk in yet, still numb.
Apparently, firefighters never saw it coming either. Just 30 minutes prior, they rolled on scene, responding to a gas leak called near Greenwood and 84th. Our camera was here too. 1 minute, firefighters were walking the building's perimeter. The next, they were thrown back by the blast.
This is insane.
The fire chief says when firefighters couldn't find the natural gas leak, they called Puget Sound Energy for help. While they waited for PSE, firefighters continued searching.
That is in our protocol. So this happens, and we take the proper steps, and all of our firefighters did that.
While the investigation continues and the mayor reassures the neighborhood it's not alone.
We'll be back and bigger and better than ever.
Now, I asked PSC about the maintenance of that line, the history here in the neighborhood, all information that they tell me that they will pass on to investigators. We did just learn within the last 20 minutes that the damage is here $3 million. 3 businesses, because all 3 of them shared common walls. We'll stay on top of this. Reporting live, I'm Michelle Esteban. Eric, send it back to you.
Thank you very much. Great information. Of course, it wasn't just those 3 businesses that were destroyed that were impacted. Many other businesses. In fact, a block away, if you're driving on Greenwood Avenue, you can see the windows completely blown out of storefront after storefront. KOMO's Cale Thompson has been following this story since 3 o'clock this morning. Cale, tell us what you've learned about these other businesses that have been impacted.
We learned this afternoon, Eric, 36 businesses in all with at least some sort of damage. Many of those owners meeting with investigators and inspectors this afternoon, and here, some, like the Gorditas building, at least part of it, red tagged, meaning it is unsafe to enter.
They said we had to leave because of possible structural damage.
Theo Zelak is waiting to board up his bookshop about a block from the site of Wednesday morning's massive explosion and 3 blocks from his own home.
And there was a huge orange glow, and then there started to be white paper cups raining down like huge snowflakes.
The force of that blast shattered windows for blocks and woke up entire neighborhoods for miles.
I just feel heartbroken that this has happened to all these small businesses.
Among my first thoughts were, there goes our hopes and dreams.
Davey Oil spent the day waiting to get inside his G&O family cyclery, the storefront in shambles and right next door to the blast.
Mr. Euro's, the Quick Stop, and Neptune Coffee are all destroyed, total.
For us, fortunately, it's just a big mess. For the poor people down the street, I mean, it's huge. Their building's gone.
We watched as the manager of the Chocolati Cafe took a break from sweeping glass to pour hot coffee for exhausted firefighters before sunrise. Neighbors helping neighbors in a tight-knit community where just about every small business owner knows each other, and nobody knows just what will happen next.
Reopen. You know, I can't even think that far in the future. I just have to get the plywood up tonight, so I haven't really even thought about that. I'm just in the here and now moment with things.
In fact, the focus for Zelak and many other business owners tonight is just getting their property secured before the sun sets and the rain gets any worse. We're live here in Greenwood. Cale Thompson. Eric, we'll send it back to you.
Cale, thank you very much. Such a vibrant and fun neighborhood this is, and the impact of this explosion is huge, and the ripple effect will be continued to be felt. A GoFundMe account has been set up to help some of the businesses that have been affected by the explosion, and also the workers who won't be taking home a paycheck for a while. The goal was to raise $20,000. Guess what? That goal has already been reached. They're over the $20,000 mark. The total will continue to climb. So many generous people out there. We're going to go back now to Molly Shen in the studio for more on this continuing coverage. Molly?
Boy, great to see the community rally like that. Eric, thank you. Not only did that blast damage nearby businesses, it damaged homes and apartments, and it shook up a lot of sleepy people who awoke thinking a bomb had gone off. KOMO's Matt Markovich has their story. Matt?
Well, Molly, the city has not given us an official estimate of how many homes and apartment buildings have been damaged, but we've seen dozens and dozens of broken windows. Fortunately, nobody's been injured, but take a look at what's happening right here. There's the blast zone, what was left of the Neptune Cafe and the Greenwood Quick Stop, but coming over here, right across the street, is the Dean Apartments, and nearly every window of this place is blown out.
Scared the crap out of me this morning.
It was something that I've never heard before.
It's something Greenwood has never seen before, especially the residents of the Dean Apartments right across the street from the blast.
They literally shook us out of bed.
I was just stunned.
and I couldn't understand what had happened.
Every window facing the explosion blew out, and fortunately, the laws of physics saved lives.
But the windows blew out into the alley rather than inwards.
I kind of woke up and looked outside and just saw like all those businesses just leveled.
Chris and Desiree didn't know what happened.
So many things run through your mind, whether it's like...
Stay down, like somebody was going to maybe come through the streets with a gun.
And I was just like, yeah, stay down, let's stay calm, let's stay in here, keep the lights off. Like I had just no idea what was going on.
Susan's cat is so traumatized, it wouldn't come out from under the dresser.
And then I started hearing sirens, and the sirens just kept going and going and going.
People still have the shakes.
It was really intense to feel something like that.
I'm just very grateful that we're all okay and that we survived.
And if you take a look at some of the glass, it's basically the single pane windows that were all blown out. Double pane windows that were near the blast, they survived. And there's still a lot of cleanup to go. Reporting live in Greenwood, Matt Markovich, KOMO News.
Boy, something to see. Matt, thank you. Back to those 9 firefighters who were already on the scene inspecting the gas leak. All of them, 8 men and 1 woman, were injured. KOMO's Mitch Pittman has been looking into their stories all day. Mitch, how are they doing tonight?
Well, Molly, this is the fire station behind me where all of them work. The injuries that we know of range from scratches to stitches, but the remarkable thing is that all the firefighters have been treated and released from the hospital.
Each day, they head out into the unknown. Sometimes a fire, sometimes a heart attack. This time, an instant of terror that knocked 300-pound men on their backs.
I'm very surprised that our firefighters were not seriously injured.
After the initial explosion came the shower of debris, a hellish rain of 2x4s, glass, and splinters from the sky.
9 of them have put their lives on the line and to serve this community, and I want them to know that they've done a great job.
All 9 injured on scene came from Station 21, just a little ways down Greenwood Avenue, where their fellow firefighters washed down the equipment they used to protect their neighborhood last night.
Our house moved more than a little bit.
Deborah Thompson not only lives close enough to feel the explosion, she's close enough to feel the impact to those who watch over them.
They're the defenders of Greenwood. They're our firefighters.
To know they're okay.
That seems like impossible. So I'm thrilled. It's great.
I'm proud of the work that they did. They knew what they were doing out here tonight.
Just the fact that one of the injured firefighters could crack a smile outside the hospital this morning, a bright spot in this otherwise dismal day.
The fire department says it will look into whether protocol was followed, but as of right now, it appears they did everything right, which they say is a big reason nothing worse happened. Reporting live, Mitch Pittman, KOMO News.
Well, we're all grateful they're doing so well. Mitch, thank you. Check out this symbol of support for the firefighters and for the business owners and workers. School kids from nearby Greenwood Elementary came out onto the yard this morning and formed that giant heart. The teacher who organized it called it a teaching moment, a way for kids to learn about community support.
I'm Eric Johnson, live here in Greenwood. I want you to take another look at the devastation that used to be 3 businesses. They no longer exist. This is a beehive of activity here. Fire crews, utility crews, investigators hard at work, business fronts being boarded up where the windows were blown out. One important question we're asking tonight, were PSC crews delayed in shutting off gas in the area because valves were underneath the street? That's a question KOMO investigator John Humbert has been trying to answer this afternoon. John?
Well, when we talked to a number of investigators, Eric, we wanted to know, of course, what kind of valves were being used. That's what they want to know now, and also, more importantly, when they were inspected. But we asked the question, how fast of a response can you have in an emergency when you have to excavate underneath Greenwood Ave? Jackhammers in the street in the middle of an emergency. It was an odd sight this morning as crews worked to shut off 6 key gas valves to the Greenwood area. PSC said this one under the street was the final valve, shut down nearly 5 hours after the explosion.
A lot more information will come to light.
Anna Gill with the Utilities and Transportation Commission was part of the inspection crew from Olympia. Their job now, hands-on investigation and pouring through records
to determine whether or not the company followed all state and federal pipeline safety rules.
6 valves were shut down, but no one can say which of them are the so-called emergency valves.
So these can be used to shut down a large area in an event such as this to ensure that the gas flow stops.
The valves have to be inspected every 15 months. Not easy when they have to be dug up, and tougher still in an emergency like this morning. SDOT is working on supplying us with the history of permits to do that digging. PSC also couldn't say which valves are which, but they will have to tell inspectors. The paper trail of pipes that ended an explosion now under investigation. Now, UTC is going to help with finding more into the cause of this, exactly how this occurred. Think of them sort of as the NTSB in this situation, digging into some of those clues and looking through a number of records, but also holding the people in charge accountable. Eric?
Interesting, John. Thank you very much. Of course, so many questions left unanswered at this point about what exactly triggered this explosion, how it precisely unfolded. We're going to stay on top of this investigation every step of the way with the KOMO News Network and get up-to-the-minute developments, of course, right here on KOMO News, on KOMO News Radio, and online at KOMOnews.com. Back to you guys.